It's the Growler with PD&Jay, here to analyze for you today. From Growler Bad to Jay's got stats, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Growler. It's PD&Jay, Paulino Jr. of The Athletic, Jay Morrison from Pro Football Network. What's up, Jay? Welcome back from your vacation. Are you feeling refreshed? Can you hear me? Do I need to yell louder into your ears?
You do not. We were far enough away from the stage. My hearing is fine. I was refreshed until today at the stadium when my computer just quit charging the battery. And so that was stress. And then I come home, we're getting ready to do this, and I get my backup computer says fatal battery failure and it needs to be replaced. So I'm on AC power. I'm hoping we're going to get through this. I don't know what the odds are of two laptops having battery failures on the same day, but might be time to buy a lottery ticket tonight.
I'm excited to find out what the third thing's going to be. And I like that we're getting maybe slightly agitated Jay for this episode. One of my favorite versions of you.
You should have seen me driving home from the stadium. That was agitated Jay at his peak. Not enough people going 85, and that was not making me happy.
There's a certain speed that you expect out of the rest of
that's right,
Cincinnati's drivers, and I'm appreciating you coming into this episode knowing exactly what you want out of us, and that is to get it together. Okay, let's go. We got a lot to get to.
Yes,
we got a lot to get to. We're gonna get to a little bit of we're not gonna spend a lot of time on Joe Burrow's hair. I'm just not gonna do it. It's very normal hair. The Bengals are throwing a bunch of money at the stadium. We're gonna talk about T. Higgins again, times 1,000. We're gonna talk a little bit, some more mini camp observations. We had another open mini camp, another open off-season program session. Technically, OTAs starts next week. It's really kind of murky what the difference is between like OTA. It's a little longer, I guess. You can go against defense.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing.
Right now, you're just going against air. So, we'll talk a little bit more, some observations from that today. You'll hear a little bit from Taylor-Britt, maybe some Amarius Mims. Got a fun little thing for you later. Some Bengals sounds. I think you might like this. I think you might like some Bengals sounds talk from us. We got some RPBs. You know what we do. We get some Arby's. It's all coming your way. Make sure, by the way, follow everywhere you can. Tell your friends. Give us those 5-star ratings wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch Jay. Jay's looking super clear and not too agitated.
Nice
in
camera.
This current moment, but you can watch all the glory of us and our facial reactions on YouTube. All the old, we've got, segments are up there right now. So you want to go watch some old stuff from old episodes, full episodes. Maybe just want to relive our beautiful breakdown of the draft and just all its glory. You can go do that too. If you have questions that you want answered on who they like this weekend, thegrowlerpodcast@gmail.com. Myself and Mark will take those on for you this weekend. Of course, make sure you're following Pro Football Network and The Athletic for all of your needs. All right. Bengals are investing money, 100 to 120 million, they say, into Paycor Stadium, saying, hey, we're in it to win it for the long haul, Cincinnati. Don't go doubting. We want this building. We want to see it rebuilt the right way, and we are going to put the money into making sure that happened. This quote from Executive Vice President Katie Blackburn: the Bengals are continuing to invest in our future here in Cincinnati. We are lucky to have a great stadium. We are proud to invest in this great asset to help make it a best-in-class facility. We love our fans and can think of no better way to celebrate our 25th season in Paycor Stadium than to announce these major improvements that will make the game day experience even better. Jay, am I too cynical to think, okay, what's the deal here? How does this help the negotiations? Because, look, the lease deal is still the big thing that needs to get figured out in the long run. I feel like I'm being too cynical to say there's got to be something, because on its face, this is good. on its face, this is nothing more than a team putting private money into a facility. This seems good. I should stop being cynical, right? Shouldn't I? Should I?
I mean, it's total coincidence. I'm sure these are going to be done by 2026 when the lease runs out. It didn't come out of the blue. I mean, they've been doing a bunch of the locker room and all the other work they're doing, the concourse, widening that for the people coming over from the banks. So they've been doing a lot of this work as it is. But yeah, it was funny because we were just having a conversation today, some of us in the media room, about what's set up to last longer, GABP or PB, or I almost said PBS, or Paycor. And I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, if you have to be encouraged about this, about them putting the money in, and it's like you said, it's fan facing stuff. It's going to make the experience better. Going to make it a more attractive looking stadium. You would expect maybe a little more color inside.
I assume that beautification projects include some color.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes.
25 years. Maybe we'll
not just new green seats.
Maybe that's what it is. Greener seats. Grayer walls. Maybe that's what it is. Refresh the concrete. No, yeah, it is going to be a lot of fan-facing stuff, video, audio, so your boards, your audio stuff, suites, clubs, concessions, things like that is what they're going to go for, which makes a lot of sense. That's the stuff that makes the most difference immediately, and can certainly, I think anytime that you are putting your money where your mouth is and investing, and they have already done $40 million in private investment projects. You throw in the indoor facility and the locker room and all that stuff, you get up around $150 million that they have put into this thus far. That's good. Still needs to be more. There still needs to be, a lease that needs to be put together the right way. But certainly this sends the right message as they go forward. I like that we can go from a real serious topic like taxpayer money and, an important public asset being handled and so many things tied up in that, to Joe Burrow's fake hair. How about that? Let's transition right over to that. That happened. Someone tweets a picture of basically an AI Joe Burrow long hair, and we have to suddenly be like, hey, I don't think Joe Burrow has long hair. We have to be showing you video of him not having the long hair, but it still circulates. People think he has long hair. I hate the world that we live in. I can't stand it. Why does this happen? It's absolutely annoying. But if we're doing it, can you give me? I would take an AI of long, beautiful locks on me. If someone wants to do that. That's more newsworthy than this fake thing circulating of Burrow.
Yes. And the Bengals actually were fielding calls today from media outlets wanting to know if that post was real. I don't know who was that interested. If, I know the casual fan probably doesn't realize it, but that was obviously a media day photograph, and they do media day right before the season starts. So he's not going to be posing for that kind of photo. And plus, everybody just saw him last week. Your hair doesn't grow that fast. So I don't know. I saw the tweet. I thought I rolled my eyes at it. I don't know how many people took it serious or thought it was real, but it is. I blocked that account because I don't want more of that popping up in my feed. It's ridiculous. It's begging for engagement. It's pretty pitiful is what it is.
I mean, look, your hair can't grow that long unless you're superhuman, Jay.
Even then,
Burrow.
Superman's hair didn't grow that fast.
Superman processing speed and Superman hair growth. Let's just say it's possible. No, Joe Burrow with the same hair that he had last week in terms of length. So there you go. Mystery solved. I saw a tweet that we solved the mystery of Joe Burrow's hair. No, you didn't. This is not a mystery. It was known. There's like video and pictures of him from last week all over the place. No mystery. All right. Hey, speaking of stupid stories, it shouldn't really be stories. T. Higgins didn't show up today. No kidding.
Yeah.
Obviously, he wasn't going to show up. But the parallels to the Jesse Bates thing just continue. In fact, Jesse Bates talked about T. Higgins today down in Atlanta.
I didn't hear that.
I hope that my tweet prompted the question. I don't know. I haven't seen the full press conference of how it came up, but Jesse basically saying like, T's got to know I did let some of that stuff get to my head when I was in Cincinnati, and that can happen. But you got to go ball out because it's not you're in a contract year. Every year is a contract year in this league, and you got to remember that. And that was kind of Jesse Bates's message to T. Higgins a little bit, which is fine. But it is funny. I mean, it is an absolute just cut and paste job at this point between T. Higgins and Jesse Bates. Oh, okay, T. Higgins, he hasn't signed yet. When will he sign? When will he come up? Will he play this season? Will he show up in the middle of this season? No. Book the preseason Jesse Bates sweet game 3. All right, and just put T in it at this point because it seems like we are going to follow play by play every single way that the last one went. And you know what? Both sides should hope that it ends up the same way because both sides felt like they ended up winners in that in the end of the day.
Yeah, and I did the math. I just put a story up at Pro Football Network about this. So mark it on your calendar right now, 90 days from right now, because that was Jesse. Jesse did the suite in game 1 of the preseason, and then he signed his tag 2 days after game 2 of the preseason. And maybe it'll be a little longer for T because, as I wrote, with Jesse's position and being the quarterback back there on defense, he really did need to get in a lot earlier. I feel like T could show up on the Wednesday before the opener and be fine, step right in and play. So maybe he does hold out a little longer. But if it's apples to apples, which it certainly seems like with the same agent, the same tag, everything feels so much the same. You're looking at about 3 months from today when T's going to sign that because it makes no sense. He's not going to sign it sooner. They can't fine him even the mandatory mini camp, training camp, they can't fine him if he hasn't signed the tag. So he's going to wait as long as possible to sign the tag. And then when he signs it, I fully expect him to be all in. Yeah, maybe you could see kind of an AJ Green injury nursing kind of thing if season goes sideways, but I don't think anybody expects this team to tank the way that team did. As long as this team is competitive and playing for playoff spots, and I expect T to be all in. He's got a lot on the line. I don't know how much, missing a few games would affect what he would get paid next year. But if he goes out and has an incredible season, that will definitely boost what people are going to be willing to pay him next year.
He's got everything on the line. This is the contract of his life he's playing for. You can bemoan this all you want to, but $21.8 million this year and everything to play for on his next deal. Like going out there and balling out is still the thing that is going to determine what his next contract and balling out. I mean, playing, there was a lot of talk this week when we got into, Adam Schefter and Dan Orlovsky and he's going to get paid was the message. And suggesting he's going to make business decisions out there. Look, T. Higgins going out against Kansas City in the second half when everything said that he shouldn't go back out there in a season that was a lost season, essentially tells you all you need to know about T. Higgins and what you can expect. And when the major knock on him, because it's hard to have one, is the fact that he hasn't played as many snaps in a season as some of these other elite receivers have, the people that are getting paid at the level that he wants to get paid at. Well, guess what the best way for him to kill that myth is? To go out there and play a full season and play at the level that he always does when he is out there. And that's, I think, the expectation of the Bengals. And it certainly sounded like the expectation of T. This stuff is just, it's hot. You know what? This whole opening news segment from us, Jay, is just, hey, look how the internet's ruining stuff. Hey, look now. Look over here. Give us this. It's a hot topic. Contract dispute. Big-time receiver. Bengals. Wow. Right? We know how this is going to end. Everybody knows what it is. There's nobody that has nervousness surrounding this situation. Not on the Bengals side, and certainly not that I think even on T. Higgins' side, because I think we all know where he's going to end up and what he's going to do when it's time to actually play. And I fully expect it to go the way that Jesse Bates did again. And that is he shows up. Everybody's happy to see him. You forget that it even happened. And he goes and has a nice season. And then he collects his money next year. Now, we'll get into different discussions then about second franchise tag options, if that's something they would consider. That's another day. This is about the 2024 Bengals, and there's no sweat building about the T. Higgins situation.
No, he even said at his youth camp last month, he fully expects to play for Cincinnati this year. He's not even being a holdout or anything crazy, and nobody would buy it anyhow. No one's going to turn down $21.8 million guaranteed.
No, you can do whatever floating of information that you want to do through whatever reporters or however you want to do it to put it out there. We know what it is, man.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to go out there and have a great year and make $21.8 million this year and then make a bunch after that wherever. Like it's okay. There doesn't need to be, the idea of, oh, will there be business decisions from T. Higgins? Like, look, man, I would be absolutely stunned if that happened. You know what? I'd be just as stunned as when Amarius Mims told me today that he has never eaten at Cali and Tito's. And for those of you listening that don't know what I'm talking about, there's this unbelievable restaurant at the University of Georgia right next to the football building. And I mean right next to, like, throw a stone. Unbelievable. So good. And he claimed that this massive human being who has clearly never missed a meal claimed he never in all his time at Georgia went to Cali and Tito's, this unbelievable restaurant that is right next to the Georgia football facilities. I was floored. I told him, I said, I have been stunned a lot in this building in 15 whatever years covering this team. Never have I been more stunned than to hear that from you. That was truly startling. Maybe if T says I'm going to start making the business decisions and not play and, do something crazy like give up $20 million, I would be more stunned than that. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it would top the Amarius Mims thing.
I've never been to Athens, so I didn't know what you were talking about. I just heard something in Tito's, and I was like, is Paul asking him about vodka? I had no idea what you were talking about. And then you got into the restaurant, and I was like, oh, yeah. So, I mean, that would be, I don't know what a sense like Kevin Huber never having Skyline. It just,
right.
It's hard to register. Even though I've never ate at that restaurant, you vouched for it. That's good enough for me. I don't know how anybody could go to school there and skip the most popular place on campus. That is a literal stone's throw from the football facility.
It'd be like Kevin Huber never having had Skyline if it was all they served in the Bengals cafeteria. You know what I mean? Like, yes. It's right there. Even if you just your friends happen to be going there and you were like, I'll go with them, or just stumble into there one day because I don't know, you needed to make change or something. Like, I don't know. It just seems like it's impossible to not at some point make your way in there. But that's what he claimed. And I guess we have to believe him. All right, let's get to this. Let's do a little bit of some off-season practice observations from today. So obviously, of course, Jay, you've been on vacation, a well-deserved vacation for a couple of weeks, but you got to catch back up today and hit the locker room today. Let's start Burrow, right? What people want to know and what people want to hear more about. What was your thoughts on what you've seen and heard from Joe Burrow thus far?
Well, just what I saw today, I thought he was throwing the ball really well. I mean, pinpoint, a lot of zip on the ball, putting it right on the numbers, and he was doing a lot of rolling out and chucking it deep and still putting it on. I thought he looked great. I obviously haven't seen the last two times that he's been out on the field, so I don't know how to gauge progress from there. But what I saw today, I thought was really encouraging.
Yeah, I feel like he continues to look really good.
Yeah,
and that is what people, I think, partially expect. I think he's doing more than probably you would have thought he was going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, every single sign. This is great. Like you stand there and you watch. He's rolling. He's throwing deep against his body movement. He's throwing short. He's throwing long. He's doing every type of thing off platform. He's doing a ton of stuff. And you're seeing that snap of the wrist on a lot of those throws, where it feels like almost like he's emphasizing that part, because he is, and understandably. But so that's all like great. Everything you're seeing right now about Burrow and his situation, to me, is fantastic. You can't ask for being in a better spot, I think, all things considered, than you are right now based on what our eyes have seen through 3 weeks now or whatever. That said, you're not home yet. And I have to say this every single time. I'm contractually obligated to point out, like, it's about the process. It's about the long haul. Still haven't had to go against a defense yet. You want to see what it looks like when you're trying to thread the needle in August, or when you're trying to hit that small window down in the deep out, and how consistently is that happening? He's so pinpoint accurate and so precise in the way that he plays the quarterback position that you want to see that play out against defenses in that spot, knowing that he is putting the ball exactly where he wants to be putting it consistently. And that means defenses, that means in August, that means when you're just seeing that happen in more of a game type and environment in practice. We're just not there yet. There's no way to judge that perfectly right now. What we can judge is seems to be ripping it pretty good, and that's a good sign for where you wanted him to be at today.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just say, "Oh, his track record is he's going to be fine," and you're looking at him right now saying, "Oh, there's a ways to go, but it's still early." I still don't think to be panic, and that's not the case. It doesn't feel like there's a long way to go. There's just a proving ground to go, like you said. Once there's actual defenders trying to bat down the passes and run with the receivers, then we'll see a little more. But yeah, I don't know. He even kind of practiced with a swagger today. It just looked like he was out there having a good time and letting the off-platform throw where he's rolling to the right and he lets it rip, and then he just kind of does that little head bob jog back to the pocket for the next play, and it looked like Joe Burrow that we're used to seeing.
Jay likes the head bob nod, likes it, the swaggy nod. It's true though. I mean, there is a certain, you can sense his confidence out there because there's no throw, no angle that he's not afraid to do. I mean, there was one where, it was a play action, over right tackle where he's swinging back around to the left tackle side. And, where you'll see a lot, then you'll throw that deep ball to the deep left pylon or something. He threw back across his body down the right sideline and hit, I believe it was Trenton Irwin right in stride down the right sideline. And you said, whoa, not a spot you expected that ball to go with the way his whole body was moving and what he was doing, but he just kind of snapped it out there and put it right on point. And I think stuff like that certainly suggests, man, he's in a really confident place right now with what he's out there being willing to do. So all things on the Joe Burrow front, certainly very encouraging. What about other observations? Non-Burrow division. What are we? What else do we see?
Jermaine Burton is just, I don't know. He's a different guy. He doesn't catch the ball. He snatches it. I mean, it's like a violent grabbing of the ball when it's in the air. And a lot of times, I don't know if it's for show or what, sometimes he'll jump even when he doesn't need to jump. And he just has this impressive glide about him. And it was fun to watch him run routes and snare the balls out of the air. It wasn't so fun to talk to him after practice. He was not in the mood to converse with us, but watching him, my goodness. I mean, it was like I said, I missed the first two. It was really fun watching that guy run routes and then just going and getting the ball, whoever was throwing it to him.
Yeah, you see it, man. I mean, you see it on the field. And granted, you mentioned, I mean, afterwards he was very short. The exact opposite of what he kind of was at rookie minicamp, where he was almost holding court almost with everybody and very interactive and a joy of an interview. I think today he was either it's just been a long day or a long week, or just for whatever reason he wasn't into it today, but he wasn't into it today. People have bad days. I'm not going to hold it over his head at all, but shorter, but pointing out like, look, yeah, you were really crushing it against air. And he's like, yeah, just running around. It's like, I don't really feel like I've done anything yet. I don't feel like I've shown anything because I haven't even gone against defense yet. And that was his point. I think is let's stop it with all of this. And I think that's fair. I think, these guys know how they're judged. They're not judged by how they look striding into open spaces. It looks nice. He looks the part without question. But I think you're going to be looking to see a little bit more, and he's looking to see a little bit more what he can prove when the defense lines up across from them. But yeah, I agree with you. I think certainly looks good there. I'll go on the other side of the receiver room to you. And I don't know if it's me looking for this or just the physical change that you see. I think Andre Iosivas looks great, man. I know that he's kind of become a bit of a forgotten name in all of this Bengals receiver talk that's been so hot. We spent so much time talking about how they can use Chase more and his contract situation, and where's T and his contract situation. And oh my gosh, they drafted Jermaine Burton. What are they going to do with him? And can Charlie Jones do something? And And then I feel like here's Andre Yoshivas, who had the best rookie year of, certainly in the top of the whole draft class last year, and certainly in terms of going above expectation, ready to make a year 2 jump, shows up looking impressive physically in terms of being in the shape that you expect a player of his size, speed, and stature to look. And he's gliding, he's snatching the ball, he looks confident in his routes. I'm intrigued. I'm currently buying today what I'm seeing running against air from Andre Yoshivas. So this is the Mo Egger alert, summer darling moment here. I don't, Mo and I talked about this the other day. I mean, I wrote about Cole Burgess, who's going to be this year's winner of the Mo Egger Award potentially when the undrafted kid out of Cortland starts making a few plays and they get tweeted to Mo. But I do look at Yoshivas. Maybe he could be back-to-back winner of the Mo Egger Award for the summer darling of the receiver room, because he was last year, and maybe he can be again this year. I feel like he's a bit forgotten, and I'm excited to see what his year 2 looks like, because what it currently looks like in these early stages is pretty impressive in my mind.
Yeah, and he's got the 2 things that you need to excel at this level, and obviously the physical tools. He's not short on confidence at all. For a 6th-round guy and coming out of the Ivy League, and what the Bengals tweeted something yesterday, I believe it was, says, "Do you want to see some Andre Yoshivas?" And he retweeted it and said, "You're going to be seeing a lot of me." And it reminded me last year of training camp. He was over signing autographs for some kids, and I went over and was taking some pictures of him signing the autographs, and one kid said, "What's your name? I don't know who you are." And he said, "You're going to know who I am before too long." And it's just, he's just got that aura about him, and he does. He's got supreme confidence in his abilities, and we talked about it. That was a big stamp of approval for him, that they only drafted 1 wide receiver. If they had drafted 2, you're thinking about he's got a real camp battle on his hands, and now it seems like, I won't say he's a lock, but he's as close to a lock as you can get. I really think that he can not just make this 53, but be active on game day. And we will see a lot more of him in the games. He did well when he was called on last year. He just wasn't called on that often. You're going to see his number called a lot more this year.
I think a competitive spot for Andre Yoshivas right now is what's happened when one of Jamar T has gone down in the past, right? We saw Trent Irwin has been the one to step in and take those reps. That could be Yoshivas, very much so. I mean, and you could really get excited, and then if he could put in a good year in whatever that absence is, whether it's for Jamar or for T, or because of injury, or maybe he just works his way into some sub package stuff. And we saw what he did in the red zone when they gave him shots last year. If that can turn into something, then you're talking about 2025 and who's going to replace T. Higgins differently. You always knew that the concept of Andre Yoshivas doing that was far-fetched, in that it was going to take multiple years for him to develop into that type of a player, given how raw he was coming out of Princeton. He proved to be not that raw. And if he can take a solid foundational year from last year and build on it to the level that they hope he might, then you can start to have very real conversations about what that looks like next year. And I think he's, for today, on his way, I guess. And my Charlie Goldsmith and I from the Inquirer were discussing, we were laughing today because like, oh man, who's going to be your winners and losers from the off season? It's like, I don't know. Last year's winners were, let's see, it was Brad Robbins and Zach Carter. So careful now on who we're declaring winners and who we're declaring losers. There's a long way to go, and these thoughts rarely connect to the season. Let's do one more. You have one more takeaway from today?
It was subtle, and I know I was probably in the minority, but I was watching. They were doing punt drills, and the new guy, Austin McNamara, he hit a couple where the sound, just the thud off of his foot was very different. Now they were doing this weird drill where Darren was throwing all kinds of snaps at the underhand snaps from close range at the guys, and they were trying to get the holds down, and then either Cal or Evan McPherson would be behind him and like swatting the ball back to the other guy. And it was like an assembly line, and they would pitch it to Darren, and he'd flip another one. And McNamara struggled on some of the holds. And Darren always talks about with a punter, that's half the job, is being the holder. But I think it's going to be really, really intriguing to watch this battle because I do expect Brad Robbins to be better. But man, Austin McNamara was thumping some balls, and it sounded different. It looked different at times. And I think everybody kind of assumes he's going to come in and beat out Brad Robbins. I think Brad's going to have a lot to say about that. But I started it early. We were joking about it before practice. Charlie Goldsmith, get your stopwatch out and start recording hang time. But I did. They were doing a lot of punt drills early in that practice, and I made sure to take note of it and was very impressed with McNamara.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. We'll see how he comes in and does, but certainly there's a hope that he can be the guy. I just love discussing the concept of holder catch radius, which is very exciting. He's so long and tall,
Yes.
and you're like, he gets there, and you're used to seeing even with Kevin Huber and with Brad Robbins, your standard. He looks like he could absolutely he's like the Victor Wembanyama of
Yes.
punting holders back there. And so, yeah, that's the factor, the largely undiscussed factor of punter catch radius. They're going to make sure they're measuring those wingspans at the combine for the punters now once they see the impact that McNamara could have on the league with this. This could be the game changer. I have one more to get to before we flip it forward. I want to talk about something. It was in the news. Cam Taylor-Britt graduates from Nebraska this past weekend. He walks, and that video surfaced from his mother, Courtney, and it was on everybody's socials, Bengals, Nebraska, everybody, rightfully so. Cam, who was close to graduating before he came out, but ended up one semester short because he was supposed to go in December. It didn't happen. Then he had to get fully into training for the draft and the combine. He never finished it. So he went and took this quarter and made sure to finish his degree and wasn't even going to walk, but he said, I'm going to go walk, and did it. And I've talked to Cam a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. He's been around and just kind of been, he's a fun guy to talk to. And there's a noticeable difference with him. He's a big kid, and he was, and juice, right? He comes in, that was his reputation. He's this big, energetic kid, and he was that certainly at the beginning. You're seeing him turn the corner maturity-wise, and I think this graduation thing, while maybe small and a fun, nice story to see on your weekend, is a really big sign of him turning a corner in a lot of ways. And I just want you to listen. Here's Cam Taylor-Britt a little bit. I kind of discussed this a little bit with him at the end of our session with him today about graduating, seeing his mom, stepdad, family afterwards, and kind of the maturation process that he's been kind of going through here lately. Here's some of Cam Taylor-Britt.
So what was it like when you saw your mom and stepdad? What was that? What were those moments like when you came back and saw them for the first time after they had taken shots of you from the stands and stuff?
Like I said, I was holding tears back. I think they were. The Nebraska fans were there, so they were cheering and everything. So it felt great to be basically home. And just to do that in front of, my family and finally walk the stage is, that's a lot of people don't get to experience it. So I'm glad I actually did it because I'm lazy to an extent. I didn't want to walk. I was just like, send me mine, and we're going to do something else. But, mom, grandmother, siblings, and it felt great to actually, go and do it.
You probably feel, you talk about connecting with kids or feel like a big kid yourself in a lot of ways. But do you feel like you're really, this is grown-up stuff, you know what I mean? Like, you feel that maturation in general just in your life, kind of growing up now, year 3, doing things like this? Does it feel that way to you?
Yeah, it does, man. And me and Coach Burst, we kind of chop it up about it a lot. Mike Hilton, he's been here since I have. And I can, feel the growth, honestly, just even out on the field and, just my decision-making, off the field decision-making, just wanting to do certain things and not sit out from certain events. It's playing out great for me, I believe, that's what comes with it. Honestly, you have to grow. You stay in the same place, you will not get better. So, I've always wanted to excel and succeed in everything I possibly do, so that's how it's been going.
What do you think, looking back at some of the decisions and who you were even just a couple of years ago? Do you look back at some of that stuff and be like, oh, man, this time when I was a rookie, I was doing this, I was doing that, on, off the field, whatever. like, man, what was I thinking? Is that how you view it?
That's exactly how I view it. And I tell the rookies we have now, like, just ahead of time, some stuff to even go and look out for, or just not to do, or what to do. And in this situation, somebody says something to you, how to handle it, just so you don't, have this in your head, this person doesn't like me, or, he's talking to me this type of way because of this. But in all reality, man, certain things and certain, people that there's ways to deal with things. And, I try to, get them the rundown ahead of time, keep them on their toes, man. P's and Q's, like I said.
So what's the best individual piece of advice that you give to rookie in the room? Like, what would you tell, Newton or one of these guys?
Honestly, you can't listen and talk at the same time.
Yeah.
So, of course, you want to ask questions and this and that, but you most definitely have to gather the information, and in a way that, you understand it. You could dumb it down to how you want to, so that you can understand it, but most definitely you can't listen and talk, gain the information, process it, and then, take action.
There's Cam Taylor-Britt, talking about I can feel the growth and off-field decision-making and that type of stuff. I think it's noticeable. I thought it was noticeable before he was saying that stuff, and you can hear it in the way. I mean, it's a joke, but he's like one of the oldest guys back there now, and he really does have real advice. That's advice I should give to you, Jay. You can't listen and talk at the same time. All right. So actually, I probably need to heed that advice a little bit more. But I just think the idea of him taking pride in giving advice, taking pride in being a bit of a role model in that room is another sign of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I love that line when he said that. And I don't know, that kind of sounds like something a coach might tell a player, and he might just be parroting what he heard from a coach, but that may have just come straight from him. I don't know. But I do. I see it in him. We were all waiting to go in the locker room, and he was one of the first ones off, and he walked by and dapped up every reporter. And you just don't see the guys do that a lot. I think he just feels comfortable. He was encouraged by his rookie year, sure, but it's kind of a one-time thing. And then when you go out and do it a second time, I think that really boosts the confidence level, and you see the maturity. And I was interested because every year they do this where late in the year they'll have all the players wear t-shirt or a sweatshirt of the college they went to, and they take a big team picture of it, but they only let the players who actually graduated take part in that picture. And I asked him about that, if he felt left out, and he admitted that he did. That's not why he went back and got his degree, but it was part of it. He said it a couple times. I'm a guy that finishes what I start. And that's just, again, that's another very mature thing, a very mature way to look at it. And I'm looking for big things from him this year. We talk so much about where's Dax going to fit in, and DJ Turner, and he's like the one piece in that secondary where there's really no question. You're just going to put him in at that one outside corner spot, and you'll be good to go. And what the rotation looks like at safety, what it looks like with DJ and Dax, all that'll be figured out. But it feels like CTB is the lock in that secondary right now.
Yeah, it's one of the more under-discussed aspects of this Bengals defense is that he was playing so good before that injury last year. I mean, he was playing Pro Bowl level stuff, getting picks all over the place, changing the course of games. And that was with all the chaos that was happening around him at safety and those other positions that was becoming a excuse and a crutch for some other players on that defense, but not for CTB. He was really playing well, and I think he knows that he has a chance to really take off this year, and I think he can be. I think he can. We always do that. Who's going to be the first time Pro Bowler this year on this team? Who's the big first? I think he is clearly the guy who has the ability to be the next star on this team that isn't already considered one. And so I it's one of the more under discussed. And then if that happens, let's hope we don't have to go down the road where we're talking about Cam Taylor-Britt's situation is identical to T. Higgins and to Jesse Bates. Hopefully that's one that they can get done. Maybe it ends up being a different situation, but I'm not going to go there yet. I'm not going to put that fear into Bengals fans just yet. Just get through this one. All right, I got a fun game here for you, Jay.
Okay.
As we switch gears a little bit. Shout out to Mike Golick Jr., who had this prompt up on Twitter, and it was about list your top 5 sports sounds. like the sound of a doink off the goalpost on a game-winning field goal attempt, or the sound of that sound in the air at Golden State when a Steph Curry 3 is launched, or things like that, or the sound of Mike Breen saying bang at a big 3-pointer, any of those things. Maybe it's Gus Johnson yelling, Stokely, my God. Maybe that's what it is. But sounds of the game, right? Whether you're a viewer, whether you're in the stadium, whether you're a player. And I thought this could be a fun one. Let's come up with our top 3 Bengals sounds, okay? Could be anything. Announcers, game experience, players, whatever. I'm gonna throw out the Joe Burrow press conference sigh. I'm just gonna say that's probably not gonna make it. Probably not gonna make it. Not at the top. But let's go. Let's come up with a list. What's somebody on your top 3?
Well, I mean, you know how much I love rock music and going to these concerts all the time, and I love what they've done with the tradition now between the third and the fourth quarter when they bring the guitar player in to play the guitar solo, to play Welcome to the Jungle just as guitar. I think that's fantastic. I look forward to that because it's the same song, but different guitar players have different sounds, and I really enjoy that. And there have been a couple times where the timing hasn't worked out. They've had to cut the guy off, and I feel really bad for him. He's probably thrilled to get that stage. But I liked the Hang On Sloopy third, fourth quarter tradition, but I love this one so much more. That guitar sound of playing Welcome to the Jungle as opposed to just piping in the actual song at kickoff.
It's a pretty strong opening lick. There's no question.
Yes.
In rock history. Tough to beat that one. I'll throw this. I will say, whenever you get the lap yelling go with the player's name in the background of a big play on Dan's call on the radio, Dan explaining what's happening, his voice is raising, and then in the background, maybe next to a mic, maybe not, you just hear, go Jamar, woo, or something to that effect, right? Whenever you get the just visceral reaction noises from lap shouting into the background, I'm always I feel like that's if people are Bengals fans, man, that you live for hearing that scream happening if you're listening on the radio call. So that's to me a lap staple, and I put that up there with one of the top Bengals sound. That's my number 3. I'm counting them down. I'm going 3 down to 1. What do you got next?
Well, I'll stick in the booth. And we don't hear it live like a lot of you guys do. And I know most people watch on TV. Some people will watch TV and listen to Dan and lap. But I'm sure you've all been driving around or you hear the highlights at the end. Everybody wants that kind of that signature call when a game's over. And I love Dan's coffin nails and then lap going bam, bam, bam. I just think that's a great way to whatever it is, interception, a touchdown, a field goal, whatever is that play that causes the game to be won. And then Dan goes with the coffin nails call. I think that's a really, really strong, signature call, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And it's something that obviously it puts people in a good mood because it means the Bengals have won. And again, we don't always hear it live because we're watching it. We're not listening to it. But if it's a road game, especially a drivable road game, we listen to the highlight calls on the way back. And it's something that really fires up the Bengal fan base.
Yeah, I wonder if, I thought about expanding this to Cincinnati sports, and then you end up in a whole different world of stuff. I mean, and this one belongs to the Reds, certainly would have been in the legacy mode if you were going way back in time to the best in the history of this city. You'd certainly be putting that up there somewhere. That's somewhere in your top 5. I don't know where that one would have landed, but it's as legendary as it gets. Here's a fun one for me. Every Jamar Chase laugh when he's mic'd up. I don't care if it's practice. I don't care if it's the game. The dude just enjoys it, and it's such pure Jamar joy that I just find it the best. It's just the best. Anytime you get those silly Jamar laughing, that the Pro Bowl mic'd up was great. The season one, you name it. Any interview ones, it's just the Jamar laugh. As far as Bengals sounds go, it typifies him as a person. Like he's just kind of a fun-loving dude. And he's also insanely talented when it comes to playing receiver.
It is great because it's not just what he's mic'd up in games or practice. It's those Thursday interviews we talked to him, and
Yeah.
and there's always like a handful of those in that. And so many of times those stars are buttoned up and it's the coach speak, and he's never been that way. He loves to crack jokes with us, and it's not always him laughing at what he says. He laughs at what the reporters say sometimes too. And it's just a really, really fun back and forth. That would have been one of mine as well, because it's a highlight every week. We just, as soon as practice is over, we all gather around Jamar's locker, and that you wait for him to come off, because that's the day he's going to talk, and he's going to tell you something interesting, and he's going to make you laugh.
What's your number one?
So my number one, and I didn't really do them in order. I would probably go with the guitar solo, but this is one. It's a little inside. Maybe the fans don't get to hear it, but for me, it is the highlight of the year every year. And we only hear it once a year. We hear it a lot, but you only get this one instance once a year. And so you go to training camp, and for training camp, we can watch the entire practice. So a lot of times 2 hours, sometimes 2 hours and 15 minutes. You're out there in the baking heat, and it becomes such a grind. And then it flips to the regular season schedule. And that first practice, when they kick us out after 30 minutes, is just glorious. Okay, guys, time to go. And it's, yeah, don't throw me in the briar patch. No, don't make me go. It's just, I look forward to that every single year.
Oh, there is no better. Yeah, you're right. That's up there. It's certainly nothing that makes you feel warmer inside and happier inside. It's just true joy to hear them kick us out after 30 minutes, and you don't have to stand out here in the heat for another hour and a half baking with no cover or seats or anything. I love it. All right, mine is I think Bengals. I think this is when you think about this fan base and this latest renaissance under Joe Burrow. This is maybe the first thing I think of, and that is the spontaneous Houday chant that breaks out at Paycor Stadium during the middle of a big win or the post game. Certainly when you would hear it after they won the first playoff game in 30 years against the Raiders, and you heard it as players were walking off the field. You hear it after touchdowns and the team is rolling. That entire stadium breaking out in that chant that didn't have as many good moments as it wanted to have for a long time, and has kind of become something that feels, it's like the stuff that I think from the fans' perspective, that it gives you chills. It makes the hair stand up on your arms a little bit, because that's what being a fan, kind of, I think a Bengals fan at this point is kind of about, is that moment. And because it's like, oh, they're good again. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, if there's reason to be excited, it's fun to be at a Bengals game compared to what it was for so long, and maybe their reputation was for so long. So to me, I think that is the sound of the Bengals right now, is that a full stadium spontaneously breaking out in a Houday chant sound, that sound in the background, whether it's of a game or whatever. I think that's the one that stands out to me as something from a Bengals perspective. That's probably at the top. That was fun. Send us yours. If you have any, or you want us to go through some of those either on Houday Light, or we'll go through them next week. Fire those over to us. Just send it over to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com, whatever some of your favorites are. And of course, you can hit us up on Twitter at Paul Jr. at by Jay Morrison. If you have any of your favorites that you think we should include that maybe we forgot or left out, shoot those our way. All right, let's run past your boot time, Jay. I got a good one, and this is one that I think that will be fun to revisit as the year goes along. And so last year, no player in the NFL lined up for more regular season offensive snaps in the slot than Tyler Boyd. 640 of them. If you're aware, Tyler Boyd no longer here. In fact, had his introductory press conference with the Titans today and talked about reuniting with Brian Callahan and Chidobe Awuzie and others down there as he starts over in Tennessee, still being his same self. I like that Levis is very close to Levels. Could be Big Levis. Could be possible for TB down there. So I thought he was going to go there already, but I think he'll get there. But 640 snaps in the slot last year, led the NFL. Jamar Chase had 212, Trenton Irwin 134, Tanner Hudson 114, T. Higgins 104. In New England last year, Mike Gesicki led the Patriots with 314 slot snaps. So where are those going to go this year? And this is going to be a big conversation throughout the OTAs, throughout training camp, and I think as the season evolves as well. Who takes over that slot role? What does it look like inside of T and Jamar? Or is it more of Jamar and someone taking the outside? Is he become a primary slot receiver? So here's what I put: run, pass, or boot. Most regular season slot snaps next year: Jermaine Burton, Mike Gesicki, or Charlie Jones / Jamar Chase. I'll let you put Chase and Charlie Jones together up against Burton and Gesicki. Where you run, pass, or booting?
So are Jones and are we adding their slots, or just saying either
I'm
one of
them
those
together.
guys?
I'm adding them together. Yeah, I guess we could treat them as either one of those two if you want to. Maybe adding them together is unfair, but I feel like you could. I would add them together because I don't think you're going to end up with Jamar. I mean, he may get up over 300, and how much will Charlie Jones get? I don't know. Is he going to win the job? So let's stick with add. I'll go with add.
Add. I still think Burton's a bit of a wild card. We don't know if he's going to be a pure slot guy. I feel like the opposite of a wild card is Gesicki. They went and got him for a reason. They're not going to change what he does well, what his role is. He's going to be in the slot a lot. I would expect him to be right in that same range, that 300, 350 range. So I'm kind of leaning. I'm leaning towards him. I'll make him my run. Yeah, I just don't know where Charlie Jones is going to come in. I do for Jamar. What Jamar at 212. So if he increased that by 20%, that's still only another 20. That's 230. I don't know. I think I'll pass on Burton and I'll boot Jamar, just because if somebody else goes down, then maybe they don't put him in the slot as much. And I don't think we're going to see Charlie, even though we're adding those two guys together. I don't know how much Charlie Jones we're actually going to see. So I'll run with Gesicki and pass on Burton and then boot the tandem.
Charlie Jones certainly has an opportunity to emerge there and play a role. And they envisioned that originally. He's got to be the one to go seize that. I just think due to the explosiveness that they want to play with, I think you're going to see a lot of Burton in there. But I'm with you. I'm going to run with Gesicki. I just think you're going to see a lot. That's where he's going to, when he's out there, that's where he's going to play. And I expect him to be out there a lot. And it's okay for him to be out there in 12 personnel technically with Sample and Gesicki, because you're really not. You're still kind of in 11. And they can use him to take advantage of throwing up the seam, taking advantage of shorter slot receivers with a guy who's got great hands and great catch radius. I think they're going to really he's a kind of a secret weapon that people don't talk enough about. They're going to really look to exploit this year. So I'm going to go with Gesicki and then Burton, and then I guess I'm going to boot Jones and Chase. But I do expect Chase's number to be up.
Yeah.
I just think you're just going to have so much more of a distribution this year where, again, so much predictability to what they were last year. Mixon was kind of the same. He was in there all the time. Boyd was the same. He was in there all the time. T's on the outside. Jamar's on the. It was just guys, and this is going to be the opposite. I think any number of these guys could lead this team in slot snaps, and I think that's the beauty of where they feel like they're at from a pass catching perspective right now, is that they can do a lot of different things. All those guys we just mentioned are very different. They're all very different, and they're all very versatile. And you're not looking at somebody who's, hey, there's my pure slot receiver. Yeah, there's so much more to what they can do with all of those guys. That's what makes it fun. But yeah, I people probably not talking enough about Gesicki here at all. Jay's got stats. You got stats today?
I do. It's a holdover from last week, but obviously I was on vacation, and then the schedule comes out, and then the next thing you look for is the week one lines. And yeah, I expected the Bengals to be favored against the Patriots, but the 9 surprised me a little bit. And I went and looked as well, how often has anybody been favored by 9 in week 1? This is the 13th time in the last 12 years. So it's about 1 per year. It is the biggest line of week 1 this year. When was the last time the Bengals were favored by 9 in a season opener? it was more than a third of a century ago. It was back in 1990, 34 years ago. They were 9-point favorites against the Jets, and they actually fell behind in that game 20-10, and then scored 15 unanswered and came back and won. In 2019, in Zach's first game with the Bengals, they were 9-point underdogs against the Seahawks. Only lost that game by a point. And then prior to that, there was a game that they were 9-point underdogs, 1999 at Tennessee, a brutally hot game. Kind of the opposite. They fell way behind in that game. They came back, scored 28 straight, took the lead, and then gave it up at the end and lost by 1 point to Air McNair and the Titans. Overall, it's happened 7 times. They've been the favorite 4 times. They've been the underdog 3 times with a week 1 line of 9 points or more. What was interesting is, obviously, as you would expect, teams that are favored by 9 or more win at an incredible rate. So you can feel pretty good about the Bengals beating the Patriots in week 1. But if you're putting a wager down, you probably want to take the points in the Patriots. 67% of the time, the underdogs getting 9 or more in week 1 end up covering.
Wow. And you said they were 29-7 teams that had the 9.5 point advantage ended up. That was their record overall straight up in those games though. So you're
back to 2000, yes.
Yeah. So you're winning, but you're not covering. You're squeaking it out. That'll be interesting to see if that ends up playing out as well with the Bengals. But so that's fun. I like that. Those are good fun lines. Good. Making people money here, making you money.
If you want to win a bar bet, ask someone the last time the Patriots were 9-point underdogs in week 1, and a lot of people are going to go back to the pre-Brady era. That's not the case. It was just 2016. They were 9-point underdogs because Brady was suspended because of Deflategate. They went to Arizona as 9-point underdogs, and they actually won that game outright.
How about that?
Jimmy G.
Jimmy G was born, of course.
Yeah.
Certainly Bengals fans hoping that they're not going to be saying the same thing about Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. Maybe it'll be the day that Drake May was born. Who knows? Long way to go. Plenty of time to fret about that if you're a Bengal fan. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. Solid stats. You're back. You're in the groove.
Yeah.
You had some time to sit on that one while you're sitting around on the beach or hanging out, listening to whatever Slipknot was yelling at you. You had some time to let that one sink in. So I appreciate that. Do you have an Arby's before we head out?
I do. So yesterday I get a text out of the blue from Zach Taylor, and he says that he's been every night he sings hear that Bengal growling. They sing the Bengal growl with his daughters. He wants them to learn it, and he wants to incorporate some of the lyrics into the decorations of their room. And he said, so he was Googling, he was just curious about the history of the song, and he Googled it and he found my story from 2021 about the origins of the song. And he was talking about how much he enjoyed that story, not knowing any of the history. And he said he found it really interesting. And he said he's going to make everyone on his staff read my story. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. But I'm sure they're going to love getting a summer reading assignment. Like the next time I talk to an assistant coach, are they going to give me the what for making him take a summer reading assignment to read a 3-year-old story? But it was nice to hear from Zach that he enjoyed the story. And if you guys haven't read it, it is really interesting. I mean, the Paul Brown was next door neighbors with an incredible musician, and he was the band director at Massillon High School, and he took him with them to Cleveland. And when he got let go in Cleveland, he brought him to Cincinnati and told him to write a fight song. And that's where that song has been around since 1968. It's a song that all of you guys sing every time they score a touchdown.
Oh, I love the idea of assistants being so mad at you. Like, Jay, what this? I get it. There's a lot to this story, but it'd have to be so long because it is awesome. I love that story. That is one of my favorite. But that's because there was so much to it, and it was fascinating. I love that story. That was one of my favorites of all time. I do recommend everybody go write it. And maybe someday, years down the road, someone will write a similar long oral history about our relationship with the Bengal boys, cranking out the PD&Jay theme song for us, or Balds Don't Lie, or any of that stuff, and they'll talk about that. And how they came up with that on the spot one day. And we can make it sound real pretty and beautiful. And they'll talk about us in loving terms and make someone else read it. Maybe that's what will happen.
I'll be happy to write it.
I'll happy to be alive. That'd be great. All right. This was great, Jay. It was good to have you back in the zone.
Good to be back.
We'll be back, of course, next week. I'm going to be on vacation, but don't worry, there will still be plenty of content coming to you in your feed. It'll be myself and Mo Ager. We'll have an episode up for you on Monday. Who They Light still happening this weekend, so make sure you get those questions in. Send your questions for me over to thegrowlerpodcast@gmail.com. If you want Mark to ambush me, just let him know, or whatever you've got. We're here for it. You know that. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody.